Well, hello, everybody. Happy Friday to you all. Hopefully you didn't miss us too much this week. We decided to only do one live video this week. We've been very busy, in fact. We've had a lot of new deliveries of guitars. Some of you may have seen on Wednesday, we had a huge Gibson Custom Shop delivery. Today we had an equally massive Fender Custom Shop delivery as well. So it's been kind of all go in the warehouse this week. and you're going to be seeing a lot of nice stuff on the website imminently. So the live stuff we had to wait till today to do, but I'm really glad we did, and we picked a theme. That's something I've wanted to do for a long time. Anyone who is aware of kind of the stuff that I'm into will know that I'm a massive Suhr fan. So today is a Suhr day. It's not Thursday, but it is a Suhr day. And I thought this would be a great opportunity not just to show you some of the guitars from the Suhr collection that we've got here in the shop, but also everything else. So Suhr is one of those companies that caters to pretty much everything that you need to complete your entire rig. And I do think they're pretty much one of the only brands to be able to do that. And what I mean by that is, you know, obviously the guitars, but then you've also got the amps on the other end of things. And as you'll have heard in some of the opening clips there, some of their pedal offerings as well. So guitars, amps and pedals, they cover it all, as well as making their own pickups. John Suhr and his son Kevin Suhr are basically two guys that have just devoted all of their knowledge that they've learned throughout the course of decades, in John Suhr's case, to developing the best products they can in guitars, amps and pedals. In all of those different categories, they really throw everything that they know, which, as I say, is quite rare to see from one brand. And you see a lot of players like Mr. Pete Thorne, which is a player that I'm going to come on to when I talk about his signature PT15 amplifier in a little bit. He's one of those guys that managed to make the entire brand work for him, basically. You know, he's using his signature guitars, his signature amps, and a ton of their pedals. So before I delve too deeply into the theme of this video, which is obviously the brand Suhr, I want to tell you about what I was using at the start there. So starting out by playing this Suhr Classic Dealer Select version of a Classic. So we've had these for a little while now. We have actually done a live video on these before, where I talked you through the differences between this, which is the HSS version. There's also a 3 single coil S-style guitar, and there's also a Classic T as well. But I just wanted to pick this one. This is kind of the bread and butter guitar, the HSS Classic version. And the Dealer Select varies in a couple of different ways to a regular Classic. So what you've got going on in this guitar is a roasted maple neck, as opposed to the standard maple neck that you get on the regular Classic. And the pickups are different as well. So these are ML single coils, as opposed to the V70 models. And this is a Thornbucker Plus pickup in the bridge, as opposed to an SSV. So this guitar is a little bit deeper sounding. It's got a little bit more mid-range, a bit more growl to it, and I think that marries up nicely with Suhr's amps, because usually Suhr kind of goes for a very classic amp design, not that modern, not that compressed. So the guitars kind of do the job of bolstering up the sound. I mean, the amps sound great anyway. I'm going to spend a bit of time in this video too talking about the amps as well, but the main focus obviously for now is going to be on these guitars. So these guitars, the Dealer Select guitars, I don't think they're limited, so they're still coming into us, and we've got quite a healthy supply of them in different finishes. It's basically all the regular Classic finishes, so if you're aware of what those are, it's stuff like this: gorgeous surf green, there's Fiesta red, there's black, there's white. You can actually see a couple on the stands behind me. Aside from the guitars I'm going to play for you today, I wanted to pick out some of the most beautiful examples of Suhr's offerings as well. All the stuff on the right of the screen is their custom line, which I'm going to talk about a bit later on. And then all this stuff are the Classic guitars and a couple of the signatures as well. So I've tried to cover as much as I can. This is a brand that I could talk about a lot, but I'm not going to do that too much today. I'm just going to focus on getting to the kind of bare bones and the essentials of what I'm going to talk about. So this guitar, I'm going to show you a few more tones. As you'll have heard at the start though, everywhere from clean to mid-gain crunchy stuff all the way up to high-gain leads. They can do it really, really well. I gig with a Classic Pro, as it was termed originally, kind of have done for the past few years. So the proof is in the fact that these are great gigging and recording guitars. You've also got Suhr's silent single coil system on here, which really helps because it means that you get true single coil tonality, but the pickups aren't stacked themselves. They're using a dummy coil under the pick guard. I'm sure a lot of you will know about this anyway, but the idea is that you can get that tone without having to compromise on the single coil sound. So let me give you an example of that. I'm going to play some clean tones with this Badger 30. I've kind of set the amp up with a little bit of crunch. That was John in the background, in case you didn't hear a little bit of egg there. Anyway, let me show you the clean tone, and then all the gain I'm going to show you with this amp is coming from the Suhr Eclipse pedal. So I'm going to start with clean, and I'll put that pedal on as well. Okay, so quite a different range of gain there. Again, I wanted to show you all the way from the clean stuff all the way up to the high gain stuff. That was all from the Eclipse pedal, by the way. You'll also have heard in the intro a little bit of the Suhr Alexa pedal, which is their chorus pedal, which is the first modulation pedal that they ever did. This came out a couple of years ago, and it's still one of the best around, I think, because what it is, it's a 2-channel chorus and vibrato pedal, and I set it up for almost like a slow and fast Leslie type thing. So let me give you a quick example of that as well. I want to kind of get the pedals out of the way now so I can talk more about the guitars. So let me just show you the chorus quickly with a clean sound. There you go. There's also a few effects coming from my Line 6 HX effects, as is always the case. I've got a bit of delay and reverb coming from there. But I just wanted to start out with this rig because I think what this proves is that you can still take, very, very viably in the 21st century, you can still take a single channel valve amp with a couple of pedals and a guitar like this and go and do a gig, go and do a recording session. Pretty much anything you want to do musically you can cover with something like this because it will take you everywhere, to throw out that cliche once again, from the clean stuff all the way through the mid-gain crunchy stuff to the high-gain stuff. And this amp is just set pretty clean. The beauty of the Badgers series of amplifiers, though, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about them later on, there's an onboard MOSFET boost on this amp, which I've got hooked up to the foot switch on the Line 6 here. So you'll hear that even without using a pedal, I can go from clean to a little bit of gain on the amp as well. So I'm going to turn the delay and the reverb off quickly and just show you what the boost sounds like on this amp. So that's just another option that you've got, and this is again just a really, really simple rig. I do have another overdrive pedal, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit as well, from Suhr. So there's so many products I want to try and cover in this video, but I'm going to do my best to get through it all. Now before I go any further and talk about any of the other gear, I just want to kind of establish one of the other main reasons I'm doing this video today, is that what we're doing at the moment is offering a fantastic finance package. So I know that obviously with the state of world affairs at the moment, buying gear is not right at the forefront of a lot of working musicians' minds. That is, unless you factor in being able to finance equipment, and it's not very often that you find deals like the one that we're offering at the moment, which is we've got 24 months of interest-free finance on any Suhr guitars and Suhr amplifiers. So anything that you see in the video today, anything that's behind me, or anything else on the website that you see in the rest of our inventory, it's all available on interest-free for 2 years. So that's kind of a really great incentive that we've got at the moment. It's not going to be lasting for very long, but it's hopefully something that's going to help out some of you musicians at the moment that are maybe struggling a little bit with lack of gigs and stuff like that. At least you can get equipped back up if you want to, so that when we're ready to get back out and gig again, you've got the rig that you wanted to kind of set up all this time. So everything that you're going to hear in this video, as I say, you can get 2 years interest free on. So I want to say that now. I'm going to say that again throughout the course of this video for anyone who joins us later on. But it's a really great deal at the moment. So with that said, I'm going to move on to some other guitars. So this was the classic limited edition dealer select guitar, as I said from the start. So I wanted to start with that. That's kind of one of my favorite models. It does a bit of everything in terms of a classic S style of instrument. But maybe you don't want a classic S style of instrument. Maybe you want something T style, and you want something with 2 humbuckers. And that's where a guitar like this comes in. Now for me, speaking just from personal experience, a Classic Pro HSS and an Alt T, which is what this guitar is, have been 2 of the absolute staples in my own guitar collection for ages. I think I would always recommend them to anyone who's looking for a really versatile instrument, because they can pretty much do anything, as was the case with that Classic. The Alt T is another example of that kind of style of guitar that can go anywhere, catch all kind of thing. So the difference here, of course, is it's a T-style instrument. I purposefully picked a maple neck version of this guitar. You can get it with a rosewood fingerboard as well, but just to show you kind of the tonal opposite side of the spectrum. This guitar's got a maple neck. This is a thin line T-style basically, and you can hear even acoustically probably over this mic. It's got quite a lot of life to this guitar, and that's why I really like it. Even when you're playing it electrically, you feel a little bit of that kind of zing and that vibe that only a semi-hollow instrument will give you. But then, the electronic side of things is really, really healthy as well. So I'm going to show you what you've got on this guitar. You've got a 5-way switch, 2 humbuckers, a volume and a tone. So it's deceptively simple. I can't speak very well today. Deceptively. Listen to it. So once again, I wanted to show you how many different tones lurk just within one instrument, and it's not very often that you find that. As I said before, what I love about this guitar as opposed to a classic, or a classic T even, is having that semi-hollow quality. It just really opens up the guitar, and you really, really feel it when you're playing it, even electrically, and you can't hear it acoustically. You really feel it, and that's such a benefit to this kind of instrument. You don't normally find a guitar that's made up like this genetically with a semi-hollow design, but with all this flexibility. So as I said, there's a 5-way switch on here. We did actually delve into quite a lot of detail on this guitar on the Closer Look At series that I've done for pretty much all of the guitars that are here. So if you want to find out way more details and specs and stuff like that about any of these guitars, make sure that you find the Closer Look At series on Suhr guitars that we've done on YouTube. But I will just quickly walk you through what the 5-way switch actually is. So it's fairly conventional stuff. In the bridge position, in the middle, and in the neck, you've got the bridge, both pickups, and the neck humbucker. Position 2, closest to the neck, is the neck split. So you get that split coil stratty sound, which I've put on at the end on the clean there. And then position 4, closest to the bridge, is, I think it's the 2 outer coils. So it's basically both humbuckers split. So you get 5 different tones, and it will take you pretty much anywhere that you need to go on a T-style instrument. So the other thing that I want to talk about, and it's hard to factor this in chronologically throughout this video because this is going to apply to all the guitars, but I'm going to say it now. The biggest appeal to Suhr instruments for me, and I think for a lot of players, is not just the flexibility of tone. It's not just the classic design that's been modernized to basically, you can have any kind of range of classic colors that you want, or you can have some really fancy, ornate, flamey stuff as well, which I'm going to come on to later. So it's not just those things. It's also the way that these guitars feel, and anyone who's played a Suhr instrument before will know this. The fret edges are superbly kind of smooth, and it's rolled off nicely. The neck profile is very comfortable on all these guitars. It's basically sits right in the middle between too skinny and too large. The weight on these guitars is all fantastic as well. They're all really lightweight, very resonant pieces of wood that they choose to use for each of their models. This guitar is a swamp ash body, which is typically a fairly light wood anyway, but this guitar just feels like air. Obviously that's due to it being hollowed out, but it applies to the classics, it applies to the standards and the moderns. They're always light guitars, they're always very resonant guitars. And then you've got some mod cons like the locking tuners, the noiseless single coil systems I was talking about in the classic series of guitars. There's so many things, and again, if you want to find out more of the specs, those Closer Look At videos are the place to do that. But it just means that you don't have to think about any of these attributes that go into what you normally have to think about when you're deciding on a guitar purchase. It's great to know that you can pick up a guitar, play it on every gig, play it anytime you want to sit down and play at home or record, and it's going to be issue and hassle free. So that's kind of my school of thought. That's why I like these guitars so much as tools. But the more you use them, the more you wear them in, the more you identify with that sound. And this is such a familiar setup for me, an Alt-T through a Badger amplifier. This is the Badger 30 specifically, which I said I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Really simple, but you'll have heard so many different tones can come out of this setup with just one gain pedal on the floor, which also happens to be made by Suhr. So hopefully I'm making the case here for using Suhr as a sort of one-stop shop if you want to kind of have a very reliable tonal setup. They make something that's going to suit every requirement. Hopefully I've made that point, and hopefully you enjoy the sound of this guitar. There's quite a few of these, and as I said, there's a rosewood fingerboard variant, so if that's more your thing, there are a couple of guitars with rosewood fingerboards, but I actually really like the maple. I think it's really alive sounding. It's got a lot more top-end content. I think the bodywood is different as well. The maple neck guitars have swamp ash, and the rosewood fingerboard guitars have an older body. So I like the swamp ash and maple combination for the Alt T. I think it really has more of that classic telly sensibility, as well as having all the modern flexibility. So that's the Alt T. So I'm kind of coming to the end of some of the classic series of guitars, and I wanted to start with these, with the Badger amp, because I want to show the two sides of the coin that Suhr produced, because in recent years, this is a much more recent kind of turn of events for them to move to these kind of classic reimagining of these timeless designs. What they've been known for years and decades before that is all the really fancy pristine custom stuff. So we've got the standards, we've got the moderns here, and I've got some custom level instruments that I'm going to show you throughout the video as well. And it's great to see the two schools of thought, because I know that John Suhr is one of the kind of master craftsmen of our time, and he's turned his attention to basically recreating and developing new ideas as well as revisiting old ideas, and he's done that throughout the course of I don't know how many years. I don't want to put a number on it. But what's great is that you can genuinely feel satisfied if you're a classic kind of instrument guy, if you're looking for something that's really vibey and classic, something like that classic Dealer Select or the Alt T, you can do that. But if you're a more contemporary player, and I know there's a lot of artists on their roster and a lot of players that use them, you can look at something like what I'm going to show you now, and it's going to deliver a whole totally different field of tone and playability. So that's the case for the vintage modern thing. So let me grab the next guitar, and then before I play this one, I'm going to have a quick look through the questions. As I said in previous live videos, I really appreciate all the comments and the support that we get from you guys, so keep the comments coming in the live chat throughout the course of this video. I've got my phone here with all that going on, and I did see as I was playing quite a lot of stuff coming in, so I'm going to have a quick sip of coffee, then I'm going to sort through some of your questions and try and answer any that haven't already been answered by my esteemed colleague Luke over there. So
the best part.
yep, that's the best part, and it's done. Okay, let me check out some questions. Wow, lots of comments and lots of people watching from basically every corner of the earth, which is fantastic. Lots of USA viewers. I'm surprised you guys are awake, but thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Right. Yeah, somebody asked about the blue guitar, which I'm assuming is this one, which is the Standard Plus. I'm going to come on to this in a minute. Let me see what else is in here. John Suhr is watching, and I can see a few other people from Suhr. Great bunch of guys. Thank you for checking this video out. I hope you're enjoying it so far. So, I think a lot of the questions that you had have hopefully been answered already. A chap called Cody has asked to play through the PT15. I'm going to get onto that in a few minutes, so you're going to hear that amplifier. As I said, with the guitars, I wanted to show you some vintage stuff and some modern stuff. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with amps, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, some great comments about the Alt T. It's really, I think it's one of the best guitars that's ever been in modern production. Not only from Suhr, but I just think it's such a usable guitar for so many different types of players. And you see a lot of different players using them. You see guys like Robbie McIntosh, I know was one of the first adopters of that model, who's, you know, a real bona fide classic guitar player. And then there's a lot more modern artists as well. I see a lot of stuff, Instagram players are using Suhr Alt Ts and stuff like that. And I think it's just one of those guitars that will appeal to a lot of people, because if you're looking for a T-style guitar, that's one of the best options you've got. The Classic T is great as well. I'm not going to play one of those today, but you can see one on the stand behind me. But it's just a very different kind of animal. So yeah, great to see some nice support for the Alt T. I think it's a great guitar. So I've done the questions up to this point, but keep them coming in, as I say. And now I want to sort of turn a corner and focus on this stuff, this is the Standard Plus. So maybe if you're looking for an S-style instrument and you don't want something that competes with the Fenders of the world and the exotics of the world, in that kind of classic school of thinking, the Classic S does a fantastic job of that, but maybe that's not for you. Maybe you want something that's a little bit more modern, and I hate saying a little bit different because that implies that it's an alternative and you shouldn't consider it if you're one type of player. The Standard Plus, though, is just kind of where Suhr have got to. So if you take the classic designs that guitar references and you look at all the advancements that they made throughout the course of particularly John Suhr's time when he was working with Rudy Penzer as well, the developments that he made during that time and up to the point of developing his own company. I don't know the exact timeline, but this is my gathering of it. It's all kind of manifested in the Standard Plus. So you can see, you know, it's got this amazing flame maple top, for example, which is something that you would never have seen on an S-style instrument before, really before guitars like this came along. And I think for a lot of players and probably a lot of people watching, this is still the archetype of what you think of when you think of a Suhr instrument. You probably don't even think of the classic stuff and the Alt T and stuff like that. This is really the benchmark for a lot of people. And this model was revised a couple of years ago, so it used to be the Standard Pro. It's now the Standard Plus. And they changed a few things. So you've got a different pickup complement in here now. I'm just going to check the specs so that I don't get it wrong, because I've been known to do that on these videos. You've also now got roasted maple necks on these guitars, and you've got the option of having the maple fingerboard or power ferro fingerboard. You've got some amazing finish options. So as I said, this one is, oh, let me check the colour because I didn't do this before. Transwhale blue. Thank you, Luke. Transwhale blue. You've got Bengal burst. You've got a bunch of different options. Check the live chat for the link to this guitar, and you can find out the other ones that we've got too. I'm not very good with colour names and specs, but let me just tell you a few more specs about this guitar. So again, a couple of different ways that this differs from like a classic S. You've got a basswood body on this guitar as opposed to an alder or an ash, and I think that gives you a little bit more of an immediate kind of response. It's a little bit more attack. It's also a little bit more tonally neutral, I think, and that lends itself very well to making a versatile guitar, because of course you can then use this with any electronic configuration that you want. The Standard Plus has the HSS, but then when we come onto the modern, you're going to hear that guitar sounds very different with HSH or HH in a couple of cases. Other than that, you've got a couple of different changes to the neck. So this has got a 10 to 14 inch compound radius fingerboard as opposed to, I believe it's 9 to 12 on the Classic and the Alt T. So it's a little bit flatter, a little bit faster. This is also a slim neck profile, an even C slim neck profile as opposed to the medium on those guitars. You do still have the same 510 tremolo, Goto 510 tremolo, which I didn't talk about on the Classic, but this is just the tremolo system, I think. I've got so used to the way this feels. It never gives you any tuning issues, anything like that at all. You just don't have to worry about it, and it sounds great. And what's interesting is that on a few guitars like the Classic, they're using the old sort of style of the bent saddles as opposed to these kind of more blocky saddles that you get on the Standard Plus. So that's another tonal difference. It's just a bunch of these tiny things that add up to make this guitar just a different school of thinking to a Classic. Last thing I'll say, this has still got the SSC2 noise cancelling system, so these single coil pickups are proper single coil pickups. They sound like it, but there's no hum. And then you've got V60 single coils, and you've got an SSH plus in this guitar. I know that's a lot of letters and a lot of numbers that I've just thrown at you. I'll try and, as we go on, talk more about the specifics of what goes into the pickup design and stuff like that. But I'm going to play it for you, and you'll hear the essence of what makes this guitar different. So I'm going to start on the Badger, and I'm going to get to the PT15 with this guitar as well, so you can hear a couple of different styles of amps with it too. Now that was a lot of distortion coming from not only the Suhr Eclipse but also the other overdrive pedal that I'm going to talk about in a second. But what's remarkable about these instruments is they do not mush out. So I had loads of gain there. I was using single coil pickups, I was using the middle pickup, I was using the neck pickup as well as the bridge. They just sound so balanced, and because you've got that silent single coil system, you don't have to worry about noise, you don't have to worry about hum, and just the way these pickups are voiced with the tone woods on the guitar and stuff like that, there's just no danger of it ever flubbing out unless you're playing in a sloppy fashion. So that might have been what you just heard, I don't know. But the point is the guitar will hold up. But at the same time, it's not sterile when you want to play clean. And to strike that balance is nigh on impossible. I think I've heard a lot of different guitars from different brands that try and do that, to have the really warm, rich, clean tones and then the really tight, articulate, high gain tones. Standard Plus does it. So if you're looking for an S-style instrument and you want maximum articulation, but also maximum tone, it's not like a sterile instrument like I just said, this is a great option for that. So before I finish off with this guitar, I want to play it through a totally different style of amplifier. So I'm going to play quickly a little bit more on the Badger, and then I'm going to plug in the PT15, and you're going to have to bear with me for a minute while I clumsily switch it over. But let me show you just how versatile this guitar can be It will do the classic stuff. I'm going to play just straight into the amp, use the boost on the Badger as well, and then I'm going to switch over to the PT. So let's hear it. Right, so with an amp like this, the Badger 30, which I'll talk about actually quickly because it's one of my favourite amplifiers. You've got three different amps in the Badger family. You've got the 18, you've got the 30, and you've got the 35. I picked the 30 today. This is the EL34 driven amp. So you'll have heard when I put the boost on and use the humbucker, it just gives you that real classic kind of Marshall tonality. It's a very versatile amp though, and I've been using it as a clean platform for for this whole video. So just depending on how you set it, you can get a lot out of this amp. Let me give you a quick example of that. With a guitar like this, you can go all the way from the clean tone I just had, and now I'm going to drive the amp and use the power control to subdue the volume. And I'm not going to talk too much about this because this is a whole video worth in itself, but let me just show you a couple of tones before I move to the PT of what the Badger can do. So here's the clean. Right, so you can drive the amp really hard as well if you want to and get that classic kind of tone. You can use the boost that's built into the amp. It's one of the most versatile things that I've ever plugged into because it's just was one of those touch sensitive amplifiers. And using the power control, the power level, you can dampen it, you can bring it all the way down from 30 watts to something silly like a quarter of a watt. And you can just control the volume level while still having that classic power amp driven tone. So that's what the Badger does, and that's why I love it. Now let me show you something very different. I'm going to try and talk while I do this so that you're not just staring at my behind. Hopefully you can still hear me. So the Badger is a single channel, really simple amplifier with just a couple of extra features. The PT 15 is a very different school of thought. So what Pete wanted to do is distill down his 100 watt PT amplifier that he's had for years into a 15 watt form factor. And the idea of it, really, you can kind of tell just by the look of it, is kind of now more in keeping with the Badger lineup. It's a little bit more expensive, but you get 3 channels instead of just 1. And you get this is the non-IR version. There is a version with Suhr's reactive load and IRs built in, so you can record and go straight to front of house just with the amplifier, you don't need the speaker cab. But I wanted to show you the non-IR version, so there's none of that technology on board, so this amp is a little bit more affordable in that regard. But the tones are exactly the same. So let me show you a few of the tones. I've got it hooked up to the Line 6 HX effects. I actually saw someone asking about switching. Let me just jump back to the comment. It might already have been answered, so forgive me if it has, but someone was asking about... Yeah, Cody was asking about switching the channels on a PT15 with the HX or Helix, and I've actually done that with the HX effects. So let me show you the tones that I've got coming from the PT15. Okay, so moving over to the PT15 amplifier. For anyone who's just joined, by the way, this is a massive Suhr overview, and I'm trying to cram it in as swiftly as I can. I've got a lot I want to talk about today, guitars and amps. So I wanted to show both amps with this guitar because I think the Standard Plus is kind of where you can sit comfortably on both sides of the fence. If you want to go down the single channel classic valve amp style route, this guitar will work very well to do that, but it will also work very well with a multi-channel, more modern voiced amp. Not that the classic wouldn't do that, not that the Alt T wouldn't do that, but this guitar really signifies kind of the appeal to players that want both. I'm sure that most people do want both. I certainly love both schools of thought. I was switching the channels with the Line 6 HX effects, so it's a super easy amplifier to operate. There's no MIDI or anything like that if that's something that you wanted to avoid. This is a good old TRS socket on the back of the amp. You can use any sort of latching foot switch to do it. And it still takes effects really well as well. So, and for a 15 watt amp, which this is, it's not always the way that you find this kind of level of power in an amplifier will take effects very well. But let me show you what it can do. So that I use the gain tones from the amp there, but just to show you how versatile this clean channel is, I'm going to use the Eclipse in the front. So let me show you how it sounds. If you just want to use the clean channel, just as a great clean sound, this amp can do that too. So what I did there was went from the clean channel with the gain pedal to the gain sound in the amp, and you'll hear that it all just sounds like it's coming from one amp. So that's the beauty of the PT amplifier, and it's now extended that beauty of the fact that it doesn't cost as much as before. If you're not fussed about having the IR features and the reactive load, this standard version of the PT15 I think just sounds amazing. Still gives you loads of versatility and flexibility, but it's a little bit more affordable. It's a little bit more in keeping now with the Badger lineup of amps. So now you've got a choice if you want to go classic and single channel, or if you want to go modern 3-channel. So that's a great option, and I will just remind you, for anyone who's just joined, that we've got an amazing deal on at the moment, which is 24 months interest-free on all Suhr guitars and all Suhr amplifiers. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about picking something up that I'm showing you in the video, or anything else that's on our website, you can do it by applying for the finance and getting 24 months interest-free. So that's pretty cool, huh? Now let me show you some more guitars. I've got to zip through this, I think, because I'm talking a lot. But that's what I do when I get excited. Before I talk about the Modern Plus, which I'm going to show you next, I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody's questions, though I think the wonderful people around me, Luke over there, and a couple of the other guys, are answering some of your questions for me. And Mr. John Suhr himself is answering the questions probably better than I can do anyway, so I'm going to leave it to John Suhr. Why not? I'm just going to play. So I've shown you the standard Plus, and now I'm going to show you kind of the opposite side of the Plus lineup, which is the modern. And for anyone who's confused by the terminology of Suhr's lineup, it's very simple. The standard and modern refers simply to the body style and the pickup configuration that typically comes with that. So it's not like you're confining yourself to a modern or a classic instrument. They're all really versatile, but the modern just refers to this body shape. The specs of which I'm going to talk about in just a second, but this is part of the Plus series, as was the standard that I just showed you. So it's got a lot of the same appointments. The Goto 510 trem, the 10 to 14 inch compound radius fingerboard, the options for roasted maple or pal ferro fingerboards. This has got the roasted maple neck as well. And in a rather classy turn, the Modern Pluses all have either the blatching, Jesus Christ, what on earth was that? Black or matching headstocks. I think it's all blacked out headstocks on the Modern Plus. I shouldn't try and tune and talk. I should just do one thing at a time, but I want to make sure there's no radio silence here. I'm going to play this guitar for you through the PT15, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more about the spec and why I think the Modern is such a great instrument. So here we go. Right then, so the Modern is equally as versatile as all these other guitars I've talked to you about so far, but it does it in a slightly different way. Obviously, you've got HSH configuration here to deal with, which still gives you 5 sounds, but I think they're very different to what you get from the standard or the classic. As you'll have heard on those in-between positions, like position 2 here, next to the bridge, it just gives you something really different. It's really bright and open and articulate, and that's very different to the bridge sound, which is right next to it. So I think it's great to have 5 completely different voicings on tap, and that's not to everyone's taste, but it works especially well for cleans, and then if you want to jump to a bridge humbucker for a gain tone, or I think it works great on the gain sounds as well, as you'll have heard in what I was just playing. It's so much, there's so much clarity there that even when you've got tons of gain on board, which I did have, it's still really articulate. Now I've teased quite a few times throughout this video what this mystery overdrive pedal is. This is the Sheba Drive Reloaded, but it's actually a little bit of a special edition of it. This is the Kiko Lorero signature version. And for anyone who doesn't know, he is the current guitar player for Megadeth, lead guitar player for Megadeth, one of my favourite bands of all time. Great guitar player, and this is his version of the Sheba Drive. It's been tweaked a little bit for higher gain tones, basically, to tighten up the low frequencies. The Sheba Drive is a great overdrive pedal anyway, but I've just been using it mainly to boost the high gain tones. As you'll have heard when I went to the high gain sound and was doing the chuggy, chuggy, chuggy stuff, it sounds great for that. But it also sounds great for a liquidy lead. So if you're interested in what that little secret weapon pedal was, it's the Sheba Drive Reloaded Kiko Lorero edition, and they are on sale as well. So that's a lot of stuff I just talked about right there. I hope that all went in. Just a couple more words on the Modern Plus before I move on to the last guitar. Something that I didn't say with this guitar and the Standard Plus is that you've got a push-pull here, which will split the humbucking pickups for you. So it's even more versatile, and it just means that that matches up nicer with the in-between sounds if you want more kind of real crystal clean tones for your clean sounds. But it also works to add some articulation to the gain sounds as well. So that applies to this guitar and the Standard Plus. Same basswood body with a flame maple top, gorgeous flame maple top. Pretty much all the other specs are the same as the Standard, apart from the fact that the neck profile on this is the modern elliptical neck profile. And I do think it just sounds, as the name implies, a little bit rounder. It's a little bit easier to kind of build up speed as you go up and down the fingerboard. You've also got 24 frets on the modern as opposed to the 22 on the Standard and the Classic and all the other guitars I've talked about. So if that's something that appeals to you, in conjunction with an SSV neck humbucker, the same V60 pickup that was in the Standard Plus, and the SSH Plus bridge humbucker, it's another winner. So it's just another variant on this Plus theme of guitar. If you like what these guitars are about, you just can pick your favourite body shape and pickup configuration, and you're going to be very, very happy with either of them. So that's all the Standard stuff done. Standard as in factory, off the line kind of specs. But what I want to stress about Suhr is that they're one of the only companies that I know that does this. I was chatting to Nigel about it yesterday, and he really wanted to stress, and it's very important to do so, that no matter what model of guitar you purchase from Suhr, whether it's a Classic, whether it's one of the signature guitars, whether it's a modern, a Standard, or one of the customs that I'm going to talk about now, they're all made in the same factory by the same people. And it's not like there's any compromise if you go for a standardized model over a custom guitar. All it means is that you are basically fulfilling a ready-made spec that Suhr want to give you, that they know works very well. So the outgoing Classic Pro model and the Classic Dealer Select guitar that I played first of all that means is that that is a spec that actually John here at the shop has dreamed up in conjunction with Nigel and John Suhr, and it's basically just a spec that we know will work really well. But there's nothing different in the quality of that instrument to a custom guitar. That being said, let me tell you about the custom stuff. So Suhr's always been known as kind of a custom shop, and you can dream up any spec that you want if you don't want to go with the standardized stuff. And the great thing about the custom guitars is that there's such a huge variety of them. And if you go to our website, you'll see that there is an abundance of different custom level guitars. And there's actually quite a few on the stand behind me that you can see. So what the benefit of going with the custom lineup stuff is that you just get the very best tone and aesthetic woods that Suhr has to offer, as you can tell by this, which is a custom Standard, with this amazing, I don't know if it's flamey or quilty, it's kind of somewhere in between, maple top, roasted maple neck with a matching headstock, and then you can get obviously into the deciding what electronics you want, various other configurations. I think the spec on this one, I'm just going to check, there's a few things different about this guitar as opposed to the regular Standard Plus that I showed you. So this is custom Standard, trans charcoal burst finish. This is an older body, and it is a flame maple top, but it is a bit quilty, like I said. You've got a triple A grade flame on the neck, which is roasted maple, which again differs from the standard level that you would get in the Standard Plus spec. Then you've got the 60s C vintage standard neck profile. So this guitar is kind of harking back a little bit more to the Classic spec in that way. It's got a little bit more of a Classic kind of setup to it. But you've still got the V60 LP single coils and an SSH Plus humbucker with a blower switch. And if anyone doesn't know what a blower switch is, I'm going to show you right away. So I'm going to play the PT and show you some tones that you can get out of this amazing guitar. just while I tell you about the electronics that are going on here. So standard 5-way switch, but I'm going to show you what the blower switch does for anyone who doesn't know. So it's this little black button that's right next to the volume pot, and it basically bypasses the volume and tone controls, so you can and wires you straight the bridge humbucker straight out, basically. So what you can do is have a gain sound, which I'm going to show you right now, say with your neck pickup and the volume and tone turned down a bit, and then you can just hit that switch and go straight to a lead sound. So let me show you what that sounds like. Okay, so hopefully you've heard how you can use the blower switch and just the incredible wiring anyway on this guitar to give you so many different sounds. I think I've kind of said all I wanted to say about the guitar side of things. I covered a lot about the amps as well, and for anyone who doesn't know, John Suhr is an amp guru and has had, I don't know how much experience versus his guitar building experience. It's probably on a parallel, but I think his name certainly came about firsthand from modifying amplifiers and then developing his own circuits, and those amps are legendary. Let me just shut that amp up. And always have been, and so his amp knowledge and amp design theories have proven just how versatile a mind he actually is, because he's got classic designs like the Badger and the Bella, which I haven't talked about too much today. Well, at all today. But, you know, just from the amps that I've got here alone, and that's not even including the big version of the PT or the SL series of Marshall Super Lead style amplifiers, or any of the stuff he developed under the Custom Audio moniker. His amp knowledge is kind of boundless, as is his knowledge of guitar designs. And then his son, Kevin, has recently been at the helm as well, developing some amazing pedals. So the pedals you'll have heard in the video today was the Alexa Chorus, which I just put on at the end there. I also used the Eclipse earlier on. So those were kind of Kevin's ideas, as was the more recent like Ace speaker simulator unit that you can use. The reactive load, I think, largely came from Kevin Suhr as well. So just what an amazing selection of products from a very comparatively small company operation. So the thing I love, one of the things I love the most about Suhr is just that they've got such a fleshed out product line with such amazing product knowledge at the helm of their operation, but they're still a very small operation. So I think that kind of appeals to a lot of people, to have that boutique sensibility, but it's backed up with massive kind of the massive courtesy that you get from a large scale company at the same time. You know, their customer service is excellent. The quality control on all their product is excellent as well. They do it all, really. So that's why that's my very long, drawn-out 2 cents on what I think about Suhr. Hopefully I've shown you what their products are capable of as well. And I just want to remind you before I wrap this up that it's easier than ever before to now get this stuff for yourself if you're interested, because we're offering 2 years interest-free on any Suhr guitars and any Suhr amplifiers. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to find all of the stuff that I've talked about in the video today. All of the guitars that are lined up behind me, all the guitars that are still in the Suhr room, and the amplifiers that are still in the Suhr room. There's so much stock that we've got here, it's amazing. And it's all available on 24 months interest-free finance. So if you're interested in anything I've shown you, please do yourself a favour and head to the website once you've finished with this video. I think my colleagues and Mr. Suhr have answered all the questions in the comments, so hopefully you guys have been satisfied with any queries that you had. And just a quick, final word on all this stuff. Anything that you're looking for, if you're a classic guitar player, if you're a contemporary guitar player, if you're a home guitarist, if you're a gigging guitarist, if you're a recording guitarist, or all of the above, the proof is in the fact that Suhr artists are very loyal to this brand. There's a whole wealth of different Suhr artists. Some of my favourite players in the world, Scott Henderson, Pete Thorne, and then more modern guys like Ian Thornley, Andy Wood. There's such a wide cross-section of players, and that's not even mentioning all the names that have used the products throughout the years. That is kind of all the evidence you need just to show how versatile a company Suhr really is. And hopefully from what you'll have heard in this video, you'll hear just how easy the stuff is to get along with as well. And that's not even counting for the stuff that you can add to your existing guitar collection. If you want to get aftermarket pickups, we always recommend Suhr pickups, whether they're humbuckers or single coils. If you're looking to add a pedal to your pedal board, there's an abundance of different gain pedals. The modulation now in form of the Alexa. I'm not going to sit here and just list everything that they do, even though I pretty much have done that. But hopefully I'll have got across to you just how enthusiastic I am about the brand, how enthusiastic we all are at the shop about the brand. And it's amazing that Mr. John Suhr and a bunch of representatives from Suhr are on this video answering your comments and questions for you. So hopefully that is proof enough of what a genuine company they are. I've talked a lot in this video. I really appreciate you all watching, and if you want any more information about Suhr, any of these product lines, check out the rest of our YouTube videos. I think Luke has linked a bunch in the live chat of the product lineup videos that we've done. We also got to have a quick chat at NAMM this year with John Suhr and a couple of the other guys from the company, and Mr. Andy Wood. It was an amazing point of the NAMM show for me. And it was just so insightful. So you can find all that information out by cross-referencing those old videos. Hopefully this has provided some good information for you. And if you want to find out any more, you know what to do. Go to the website, go to the YouTube. I'll say goodbye now by reminding you, please, to make sure you're subscribed to us here on YouTube. Subscribe to our newsletter as well, because that will collate all of the products that I've talked about in this video, as well as all the other stuff that we've been up to throughout the course of the week. So hopefully I've managed to end this with a full stop. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great weekend, stay safe, and why not pick up some more gear while you're at it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.